Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joe. It's fogging up. Hang on a minute. Oh, it's like giving birth. Or being born, one way or another. Hey, how's it going? Joe here. I've been driving for nearly 15 years and I have always wanted to go on a full-on track day. There are two major reasons that have stopped me from going in the past. I knew there's going to be quite a high cost involved. For this reason alone, there wasn't much point in taking, say, my first car, a VW Polo, to the track. On the flip side, I know that I have the M3, but I'm worried about the huge cost implications if anything does go wrong. If you're in a similar boat, well, I should say car, hopefully this video will give you an idea what to expect and help you decide if you should take your car to a track day. I will cover what happened during the day and any interesting points that I wasn't made aware of, cost involved, and my final thoughts whether you should try it out. So let's get started. The track I went to was Castle Combe. We were told to arrive at 7:30 for registration. A static noise test was carried out at 8 AM and the limit is 100 decibels at half a meter away from the exhaust at 4,500 RPM. This was my biggest concern as I had no idea how loud my car was and I didn't have the time to check beforehand. If you are unsure, you can visit the track before you make a booking to confirm the noise limit if your car is particularly loud. At the moment, I'm only running the Remus Race H-pipe with a standard unmodified exhaust at the back. I was somewhat confident that it shouldn't be over the limit, but my worry was irrelevant as I arrived super early at the test bay right after registration, and by the time for the test the car was cold. And did you know that the M3 would not rev past 3000 RPM when it's cold? I didn't. Therefore I passed the test just like that, but at the same time I don't know if it's officially within the limit. Afterwards at 8:30 we had a safety briefing for the day. Key takeaway for this track was overtake on the right hand side only with consent, i.e. the car in front has to indicate before you can overtake, but as expected not everyone followed this rule and I had one guy dive bomb me into the chicane at one point. No drifting allowed, and something that I thought did make sense which I didn't think of or came prepared for was get yourself a fire extinguisher and fit the tow hook to the car beforehand. The track was opened at 9 AM till 5. The track would close at 1 for an hour lunch. Only 20 cars are allowed onto the track at once. I reckon there was around 50 cars that day, so we had to queue and wait for our turns. Luckily, it didn't take too long in the queue for some track time, as we were told to come in every 15 minutes or so. At first I thought it might be a bit limiting, but actually for a noob track driver like me, I felt quite exhausted being out there, especially with the rain. Therefore, even without the time limit, I felt I had to come in anyway for a break and rejoin the queue. Which brings me nicely onto the experience being on the track. It's quite fun, but also quite nerve-wracking. Like I said, it was wet, around 10 degrees and windy. In fact, I nearly had an accident right from the start in the morning where I lost the back coming out of the quarry corner by overly confident and touching a patch of standing water. Even with the 295 Super Sports rear tyre and in M dynamic mode didn't save me from nearly spinning out completely and I bumped my head. That's my first advice: don't be an idiot like me when it's cold, wet, or you lack a particular set of driving skills. I couldn't shake the thought of what if I couldn't brake into the corner at 90 plus miles per hour. There was one accident and one or two breakdowns during the day, especially after my initial spin in the morning. I took on a much more careful approach, S5 manual shift, EDC on hard, traction control on, power and steering was on normal setting. I wasn't brave enough to push any harder with the standing water, limited visibility and minimal runoff area on this particular track. Luckily in the afternoon there was a brief moment where the rain stopped and the track dried significantly. I can feel the track getting faster lap after lap. That's when I pushed hard and enjoyed the day the most. All in all, it was definitely a fun experience if you enjoy driving fast within a reasonably safe environment. Although in my opinion, this isn't the most fun track as it's predominantly just right-hand turns except for the two chicanes, and it's a rather short circuit at 1.85 miles. Some stats: I've done about 50 laps at the end, reached a top speed just shy of 100 miles per hour between the start finish line and the quarry corner. In the corners I hit about 50 miles per hour. What's most fascinating was something that I didn't expect. It wasn't the lack of grip, but I was literally falling out of the seat. I did not think that it would be a limiting factor. What does it all cost? The track day was £175 for the full day. For insurance, I went with mytrackday.com. It's not compulsory, but I went with it, and depending on the value of your car and your circumstances, the price will be different. But just to give you an idea, my insurance was around £140. Luckily, I didn't need to use it, so I can't tell if their service is any good if something does happen. Helmets are compulsory. You can borrow one for free, but the numbers are limited, and I don't fancy wearing a sweaty used helmet from someone else, so I bought my own. Passengers are free, but again, they need to wear a helmet and arms and legs must be covered at all times. Same goes with the driver. You can add additional drivers on the day for an extra £25, I think. I can't remember the exact amount, but you also need a driving license. Like I mentioned earlier, I probably would buy a fire extinguisher next time. Makes sense to put out a small fire rather than wait for rescue, which they will only do once they cleared the tracks of other cars apparently, so that one is a bit dodgy. I didn't use a full tank of fuel and I averaged around 13 miles per gallon for 50 miles, which I've done. Which is about 100 miles, and to be honest, I only used about 60-70% of the power for the day. I blame the rain for that. It has nothing to do with my lack of skill being a chicken. The pictures you have been seeing were taken from the official track photographer. You can opt in the morning, which I did. You don't have to buy them at the end of the day, but you can buy single printed images from £10 to £30 for the larger print. But at the end, I went for the CD, which is £35 for about 32 images. As a photographer myself, I think it's within reason the price for what you get, and it's probably my only opportunity for these types of photos. Just to recap, I spent about £500 for the day. That's for the ticket, insurance, helmet, racing, gloves, fuel and photography, plus a bit more for food and other more difficult things to factor in, like whatever wear and tear has been caused to the engine, brake or tires, etc. Here are my final thoughts. I originally planned to go around August, but because of my recent service issue with BMW meant the M3 wasn't ready until now, so the weather wasn't ideal. Having said that, it was still fun, and now I know where the limit is on a rainy day, knowing how easy it is to lose the back end. It's not the cheapest activity if you combine all the different costs, and especially if you have an accident and break something on the car by pushing too hard. But at the end, I think it's definitely something you should consider if you love driving. Last but not least, I want to say thank you to my sister for buying me the trackday gift voucher for my birthday, filming the outside shots in the cold. I know it was freezing. Anyway, hopefully you found this video interesting and useful. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.